Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lonely Wrist podcast. I am your host, as always, Blake Ray. Today on the show, we have a very, very special guest. This guy is making moves, and I mean big moves in the watch industry, not only with the stories that he tells, but the content that they produce. And this guy certainly knows how to throw a party, a damn good one. He also is a huge driving force in shaping passion in the watch community. And of course, after all of that, you might know because you clicked on this that I am sitting down with our friend Rashawn Smith from Super Niche Studios and one half of the duo at the Wrist Check Pod. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Blake. It's a huge honor.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I knew very quickly that we see eye to eye, especially after Geneva. I felt like this is something that had to happen. This is actually a first too. I've never had another podcaster on my podcast, so
That's
history
awesome.
books, history
Yes,
books.
yes, yes. Writing history every day.
Yeah, I'm super curious. So I mean, obviously like the super niche channel is insane. Like you guys are doing stuff with art, music. I mean, it seems all culture focused and all niche, enthusiast type of content. Like, what got you guys into watches, and just go from there.
Oh man. So it started very, very early for me in my love for watches. Really started from my granddad. He served in Vietnam, military guy, so very, very like strict on being on time. And he had a really funny quote where he'd say, you know, if you're on time, you're late, but if you're early, then you're on time. And so uh that kind of stuck with me, and I really, really always wanted to make sure that I was prompt and early with any and everything that I do, especially executing all that we're doing with Super Niche Studios and Rich Check Pod. And then that kind of transition to my relationship with my father, where he funny, I like to call him a hoarder. He collects a bunch of stuff. I mean, from like sneakers, belts, books, knives, pens, furniture. Like, I mean, our house was always just like filled with stuff. And so I remember my early years. My dad, he only wore two watches. He had a Timex Ironman and he wore a Rolex Datejust 36 millimeter pink Jubilee dial.
Oh shit.
So two tone. And my dad, his name is Tim, but he goes by Big Tim. He's a big, big guy. And I always found it so funny that he wore 36 millimeter Datejust. But obviously, you're talking early 90s into the 2000s. I mean, that's the only option that men had to wear for the classic line in Rolex. So, it was one of those pieces that just always stuck with me. And since I was a kid, at the time, I didn't know like how much a Rolex costs, but I knew it was very, very valuable, and how he would, come in from work, take off his Iron Man and like put on his Rolex, even if it was to like wear it around the house, or if he, got off of work early and he wanted to hang out or take us out, he'd put that two-tone they just on, and he'd be shining, and with the Jubilee dials, it has the diamonds. So I was
Oh.
like, okay, I kind of get where you're going there. My dad is a really, really good dresser. And so, he'd have a fly outfit and have the watch, and he's very, very like charismatic. So it kind of just worked with his personality. And when I was able to afford Rolex watches, I decided to actually buy a 36 millimeter Datejust, which I'm actually wearing, very similar to my dad,
Nice.
although it's not two tone. Um, it does have this blue Vignette dial, and of course, with the Vignette dials, it has the diamonds. Um, why I chose this piece over so many others that I could have got was the fact that this watch actually, I don't know if you can put rare next to Rolex. I think, there's a lot of pieces that are less pedestrian in Rolex.
Right.
Um, but this one happens to be probably like the least pedestrian. I still get people saying they've never seen it before. Because for the Vignette dials in, the early like 90s into the 2000s, they were always either steel and gold or they were solid gold. So to have a steel example, I would say is quite rare.
No, it's a beautiful watch. You got to put it up close a little bit so I can see.
I don't know if you
Dude,
could see it.
I can see a little bit. I can see a little bit. Dude,
Yeah,
nice.
thank
Nice.
you. Thank you.
Um, let's jump a little forward into super niche wrist check pod. Like, what was the driving force to start a podcast, and how did you kind of get into the whole media side of things?
Well, funny enough, it really stemmed from a crazy idea. I've known Perry for well over a decade. And so during COVID, we would just exchange like watch photos and like, watch media, a lot of stuff from so many outlets. You're talking like, your Fratellos of the world, your Hodinkis, and everybody in between. And we thought of creating a podcast just to get out of the house. So Perry called me one time. We were working down in Soho together at one point. And he's like, "Yo, man, let's go to Finelli's Bar," which is like this, cornerstone in Soho. It's like kind of like the who's. If you want to be seen in New York City, or if you are the guy in New York City, you're always kicking it at Finelli's.
Right.
So we went to Finelli's. We had a talk and kind of like building out the infrastructure and what we wanted, the podcast to look like. We wanted to be able to give genuine and authentic, storytelling situations for people to kind of like relate to. Um, how it I can remember our early episodes, and how the quality wasn't that good, sound quality wasn't that great, visuals weren't that great, but the content and what we were talking about was all there. And we actually had more listeners than we had viewers at one point. So that's what kind of like steamrolled. And we didn't really kind of get that kind of like those hate comments like, man, those videos are like all grainy, like they suck. We didn't have to worry about that, which was amazing. I think it really was the conversations that we were holding in the beginning and inception of Rich Check Pod that captivated so many people to actually want to listen more and look forward to the next episode. And I think something that, to speak to Perry's genius, we first started with like simple wrist check Wednesdays. So we post on Instagram, we go ahead and whoever wanted to participate will share what's on the wrist on a Wednesday, hashtag wrist check Wednesday, definitely tag each other, repost each other, send it to other people. And I remember in the beginning, people were like, what's this Wrist Check Wednesday thing? And then, you know, after it gained traction for a few weeks, then we go, boom, episode one, pilot.
Nice.
and it
Nice.
and it and it and it was up from there. Um from there, I think probably when we got into about maybe our hundred and some odd episode, especially with the guests and the alum that we had on the show. You talk about Ben Clymer, Kelly Yock, VJ Geronimo, so many, I want to say like prolific people in the
Right.
space.
Totally.
When we started getting those type of guests early, we knew that we had something special. Um, and so Perry then came and was like, "Hey, we should actually create some more verticals with, you know, creating this parent company, which is now Super Niche." So Perry had dealt art professionally at one point.
Oh wow.
So he had that background, right? He can speak to it.
Yeah.
With us in the watches, people had already known what we had contributed to horology in the industry. So that was pretty organic, right? We had the credibility there because people seen us in those spaces and kind of respected our opinion. Um, so the art was easy, and then we wanted to go into executive producing and like taking on talent. So we took on a young lady who already had an existing show, which was corked and curated. So we had the wine together, and then as Rich Check Pod blew up, we found ourselves traveling the world. We'll travel, domestically, and of course, to Geneva, the hub, the mecca of horology. And so it was just a no-brainer to create a travel show in transmission.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the YouTube channel for Super Niche, like I've been like, I'm ashamed to say like I hadn't seen too much from it until you started kind of like putting me on the radar in Geneva. And ever since then, dude, just the content that you guys are producing is just insane, next level. Like it's almost like you're there,
Yes.
Like it's a very visceral, surreal experience. And I mean the production, like you guys have got everything kind of like nailed down.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the Geneva episode.
Yes. So
So,
funny enough, what we're looking to do, um, we're trying to be strategic as to when we drop and
sure.
kind of meeting the demand
Right.
of people. um because we want to make sure that it's like a smooth and easy transition, because so many people are engaged with Rich Check Pod. So
Sure.
you'll have those instances where you go, "Oh, I heard of Super Niche, but I haven't like tuned in." So the more that we're acclimating people to just what we're doing, I think it will incentivize us to kind of give more. So it's really, really being intentional. It's really, really being like methodical. Uh, just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean we aren't working. So we're
Oh
like
yeah, totally.
like staying consistent, staying on top of it, keeping our finger on the pulse. I mean, we have backlogs and backlogs of content, which like we absolutely are excited to release, but we want to make sure that it's very impactful, and people will enjoy and yearn for more.
Yeah, no. I can't yeah, I can't agree more. Like, timing is everything and yeah, I'd say you guys are doing a pretty awesome job. Um,
Thank you.
Tell me how getting into the watch industry, creating watch content and fully submersing yourself in the watch community, tell me how that's changed your philosophy on collecting.
Oh man, it changes every day. I would have to say, you know, starting from the industry, my eyes opened so much wider because I thought it was just about buying watches. um, I wasn't as hip to the community because my experience didn't really start from like, the forums or the blogging and things like that. Like it kind of, I gradually got hip to it, which I think also makes what we do special, right? Because we come from it like we started crawling and then we walked and now we're running and we're waiting to soar and to fly. And I think, you know, there's so many there's so many outlets out there that can yuck your yum, or so many experiences that can turn you off from
Totally.
um from this hobby and this passion. So we came from it very earnest and very I want to say like ground level, grassroots, starting from the beginning, like industry to collecting to then contributing, then actually like collaborating. So the industry was one thing. It was like that was my job. You know, I made money in the watch world. And then it went on to, well, now I have access. Actually, I want to start collecting. And then it went on to, okay, there's actually like collectors groups. There's, you know, there's events, there's all these things. And then you start to meet people, and the more conversations you have and exposure you have, you start to look at, you're like, man, I didn't know about this brand. Oh, you know what? I never thought about collecting this way. Um, I and it's funny because on the show, for people that do know the show, right? I'm the man that never repeats a watch, and we have well over maybe 200 episodes, and at least for 50% of them, I've worn like a new watch and still wearing new watches. And
Yep.
you know, I don't think I've ever said this even though even on my own platform. I'm like, man, it's a lot of pressure, like, because we're not gonna stop filming episodes. I
Yeah.
can't I can't continue to be the man that never repeats a watch. Like, I don't have the budget to turn around and spend. I don't have millions of dollars, guys. So I do like to keep it very fun and funky, and because I have so many watches, there's watches that I can like repeat that people haven't seen or probably are getting new to what we do, and like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's like, yeah, I shared that 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's fun. And then, you know, just tapping into community, just like how we met. Like, we met out in Geneva. Like,
Right.
I'm from New York City, right? You know, you're all the way on the West Coast, and like, you know, watches bring us together, and then we're on the other, like, we're on the eastern side of the hemisphere, like,
Yep.
and for us to share a conversation, and then to like materialize this, and you know, for me to come on your platform, and I can't wait for, you know, for us to have you on ours.
Amazing.
You know, it's important to build that, you know, collaboration, that community, to be open and welcoming, and not pretentious, right? Because at the end of the day, these it's all stuff. Like,
Yeah. Totally.
you know, when you go from you know, micro to macro, you know, and you look at the bigger picture, it's like it's just stuff, and it doesn't shape, you know, the value in have meeting a new friend, having a new experience, being exposed to something new, you know, engulfing yourself in a culture that you aren't familiar with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and surprisingly, like a big portion of the people, like, I mean, I'm way behind you in the podcast space. Um, I think I'm coming up now on like almost 50 episodes. Um, and my process was very organic as well, and we'll save that for another time. This is about you and super niche.
No,
But
please.
but absolutely, the fact is, something that's crazy is every single person that I think that I've ever met in the watch industry that's either a creator, an influencer, a sales professional, or what have it, they all want to push the culture forward,
Hmm.
which is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know too many other hobbies where people say, like, this is for the community, this is for the culture, like, and they fully embrace it and they fully trust that the direction that the hobby is taking is like
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's
It is
crazy.
crazy. You know what, and I have to chime in on that because, you know, what I think is very important for brands to understand is that, you know, just as much as you guys are going to be here for, the many years to come, like this community is going to continue to grow and is going to, and is just going to evolve and it's going to develop. And now you're finding so many people that probably never thought that their life would go this way. Like I never thought in a million years that, I would be, a host of a podcast or a
Same.
producer on, a few other shows that I'm like producing and like projects that I'm working on, or even to find myself in Geneva to sit down with Jean-Claude Beaver. Like, you know, those are things that like I never thought I would have the opportunity to have in a million years, but it's the fact that Watches does it and the community is welcoming in that.
Totally.
Everyone wants to carry the torch and like push it forward. And I think us as, influencers, as tastemakers, as people that do contribute to this hobby on the other side of the counter, I think, you know, the watch industry as a whole should actually gravitate and latch on to it because we aren't going anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I amazing, like mic drop moment. So, um, tell me, so now that you are over 200 episodes in and you don't wear a watch over, can you look down like from a bird's eye perspective and say, okay, this is the type of collector that I am? Like, how would you describe Rashawn Smith as a collector?
Oh, I can tell you for sure, looking down at my collection, I like to collect the pieces that people are going to be intrigued. People are going to want to know, what is this? Or I don't find myself collecting more like indies. I'm not like a huge independent guy. I'm not there yet. Just because my type of independent collection, I don't have the budget for.
Yeah, yeah, totally. None of us do.
But I do think for the ground level pieces that I collect, when you talk about something like this Vignette Datejust, or a really interesting Cellini, or one of my latest pickups, I had like this JLC Vantage Reverso, which like I can walk into a room and someone knows, okay, that's a Datejust, oh, that's a Jaeger, oh, that's a Speedy, but I've never seen that before. Tell
Yeah.
me about that. So I like to collect the household names. I like to keep my collection very, very ground level and very basic, but it's the best of the basic.
I'm curious, and this is something that I've struggled with as a collector, but maybe you have the same issue, and maybe you can break it down for maybe you can help me. But burnout in the hobby
Yes.
as a collector, like there are certain phases where I'm like, I don't want to buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's phases where I'm like, fuck, dude, I want to buy everything.
Yes.
And I'm curious as to how you get through those because I'm in one right now. Like I'm in one of those phases where I don't
Yeah.
want to buy shit, you know.
Yes.
But then I'm like on eBay or I'm like I'm jumping full into vintage right now, dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have been
Mm-hmm.
a modern guy for too long. Vintage, I'm coming for you.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that. Maybe I'm sure you've went through that as well, and
Oh,
how you
yes,
got
I
to the other
have.
side. How you got to the other side.
Um, I think when it comes to the burnout, what I continue to do is still I try to acknowledge like where I am in that moment in time, and I'll say, okay, well, I don't want to buy anything, but that doesn't stop me from still like doing my homework,
Yeah,
right? Or
totally.
still like being curious. So although I may not want to buy something, or I feel like maybe I should take a break, it's one of those moments where I go ahead and say, well, you know what, to the defense of my burnout, like this is still my career, right?
Yeah,
Like,
totally. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
in watch media. I have to know all of the current events. Like, I can actually like appreciate this from afar than to actually like indulge.
Yeah.
And so I have like this philosophy of like, I can look but I won't click.
Yeah, yeah,
So like, I'm not adding it to the cart. I'm not like, saving it. Like, I'll appreciate it, I'll enjoy it. If I really, really love it, then what I'll do is I'll send it to someone else. Then I'd like to see their reactions and how they feel about it. And if they're just as excited as I was the moment I seen it, then I'm like, okay, maybe this is a good choice.
yeah.
And then I can either decide to buy or walk. But what what I've been doing as of late, um, I don't know how deep we can go, but I
Do it.
have like this.
Rabbit holes, baby.
I try to approach watches now from like a philosophical, um, like space. Um, I like to believe that the watches I collect have like soul, like it
Yeah,
it it,
totally.
it takes on, you know, a persona. And so when I got my reverso, it was almost like alchemy. It was almost like alchemy. Like, I had willed it, and I was like thinking, I was like, man, I want a reverso, man, I want a reverso, man, I want a reverso, but I don't know which one that I want. Like,
Too
these are
too many good
cool.
ones. Too
It's
many
too
good
many good
ones.
ones.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want this, but this is also great. I'd like to do this, but you know what? That looks just as advantageous. And I had an opportunity. Someone literally came to me, offered me the reverso for a quarter of what it actually was worth. And
Mm.
so I was able to buy this watch, right? And not like, I didn't buy it because I like was like clicking and clicking and clicking, and I was like adding this to my cart, and I was doing this. It was like, it came to me by way of alchemy. Like, I
Yeah.
willed it. I was like, I'm gonna have one, and I will know when that one is. It will actually just literally walk up on me.
That's the way it happens. There's watches that I think I've had in my roadmap, and
Mm-hmm.
they've like they've like eluded me. And then next thing you know, they're in front of me, and I'm like, "Fuck, the time's not right. Like, this is
Yes.
not the right watch for me." But later, maybe, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And that happened to me.
Yeah.
Like the reverso was one of those for me too. And I ended up getting the medium mono mid, or the mono mid, like they just discontinued it like maybe like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Um, and same thing. I just right watch at the right price, just landed on my lap, had to get
Mm.
it. And then
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool. Rectangle watch, check, done. No
Yes.
more. And then I fucking got myself a steel tank after. That was, I know. It's just one of those things, like, you never know till you bring in the collection. And then weirdly enough, so not only do I have, like, the outlet and everything, but we also have a watch club here in
Mm.
Vegas.
Wow.
And we have a lot of people. We have like almost 100 members. And GC John Carlo, like,
Mm-hmm.
he was the one that approached me to start a watch club here, and
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Um, anyways, now we're at a point in our club where we're like loaning watches to each other, you
That's
know,
amazing.
and so like I have like 3 or 4 watches out. I'm getting ready to send a watch to Georgia, out in New
Wow.
York, and
Yes.
that to me is, you talk about like getting to wear other people's watches, and it's
Yeah.
it's such a cool thing that, like, I mean, I've done that to so many people. Like, I've
Yeah.
loaned out maybe 50 or 60 watches, and
That's
I bought
amazing.
a Grand Seiko, like one of the new like blue dial Grand Seikos that came out, I think like maybe a year ago. They did like 300 for the US or something. I'm sure, I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember what the reference number. Anyways, the day after I got it, somebody in my watch club came up and was like, "Dude, you got that new Grand Seiko?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, fuck, let me borrow it. It's like, dude, right out of the box, like, all right, dude, yours. He was the one that put the first scratch on it, and
Oh no.
no, dude, I did not. I was like, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
watch it.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go
Um,
please.
that's the power of the community. Like, there's no other hobby in that I can think of, right? And of course, like, there are stories of that and just like anything in walks of life, but I feel like watches is like the most like welcoming and trusting.
It
And
is.
you know, as long as you're genuine and authentic, right, people can feel you, and they'll actually want to kind of help you out and to be a
Sure.
part of, what it is that you got going on. And you can have those, conversation with somebody. Yo, dude, like, I'll send you my watch. I'll send it to you on the other side of the country, or you
Yeah.
can hang on to this watch and you could put the first scratch on it. You could do whatever you want with the watch, because I trust you. Like, watches, it's so crazy how like trusting the watch community can be if you're
It's
in
a
the right community.
totally. Yeah, if you're in the right circles, like yeah, and I mean now that I think about it, like I've loaned out, like I've got somebody that's had a watch, one of my watches for like over 8 months
Mm,
now. And I was thinking about asking her for it back because I'm like, fuck, I kind of want to wear that now. I'm going through my
yeah.
vintage phase, and it was a vintage watch, and I was like, I never wear this. But I've been thinking about now that she's had it for 8 months, like how do I ask for it back?
Man,
Like
listen, she's had it long enough. Ask for it.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Um, what would you say between like modern and vintage? I mean, it seems like you're more in the vintage space. Is that
Hmm.
from what I've seen?
Yes, for sure. Um, I I went on a kick where I was like, I only wanted 90s pieces. So a lot of my vintage watches are 90s. It's the watches that I grew up, seeing people like wear, or just have like that special moment in time. I like to believe that the 90s is probably one of the best times in watchmaking. Part of it, is because the golden era is of course the 70s, right? You have
60s, 70s, yeah.
60s, 70s, you have, the introduction of the integrated sport bracelet, you have the integration of new technology with quartz movement, you have the digital age, and then, you have like these funky K shapes, right? Between
Yeah.
like that spillover from the 60s into the 70s. And obviously, it gets very trippy. And then you have the 80s where, the 80s kind of rides the kind of like it rides the 70s, but the 90s is where you see the wheels turn for contemporary watchmaking. You think of Ulysse Nardin, you think of Ulrich, you think of MB&F, you think of Richard Mille, you think of Frank Mueller, you think of so many watch brands that like started in that time and actually shaped what watches are going to look like for the turn of the century. So for me, I felt like the 90s was that pillar that has shaped what we're seeing now
Yeah.
in the 2020s for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the boom era where like, people really started to appreciate watchmaking for what it is now, of more of a modern stance. Like if you look at, I mean, even the Speedmaster, obviously from the 60s, but in the 1990s, the modern form of the Speedmaster came out, really, and they
Mm-hmm.
started having more fun with, references and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it really started to pick up in the 90s when everybody was buying them, versus
Yeah.
the 60s, like, people cared every once in a while, but um I am super curious. So you obviously talked about the pressure of being a podcast host and having to have the right watches as a host. Um, but I'm curious, have you ever had an episode that really changed your mind about a brand or a watch?
Yes, yes. And I would have to say the first time we visited Geneva about 2 years ago, we sat down with Manfred, one half of Urwerk, and I always loved their watches, um, but I didn't really understand. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I could say like I didn't understand. I think I did. I just wanted a deeper dive. I wanted something bigger than the surface level.
Yeah,
And when we sat down with Martin, and we did get to meet Felix, but Felix is a little bit more. He's on the
he's behind the
conservative side.
scenes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
he's he's BTS, and that's kind of like, his style is like a watchmaker, right? Because Martin is this like super like cool creative guy. He makes films, he designs watches, he loves hip hop. He's got a bit of like a fashion sense. He's like, this Swiss German guy, but he like takes to not only his culture but Western culture, but to kind of get back on track, when we sat down with Martin and he talked about, you know, the idea of the display in time in his timepieces, the satellite view, right? Like you're casting over time, you're looking over time as, you have the retrograde, or you have those like wandering hours, or you have these kind of like, spheres or squares that like turn over the hours and minutes, like so many like fun and quirky ways to tell time was interesting. And really his infatuation with like, space exploration, and you know going beyond just like, earth, right? Like space,
totally,
God, time, relevance, horology, like all of those things. And I was so happy to hear his point of view, because it was, from my understanding, it was bigger than just a watch. It was so much more than just a watch. This was this guy telling like his story through his lens. And if you own a new work watch, you're able to actually get a full-on experience of what that is.
totally. Yeah, I mean, as a creator, I've started to notice that my tastes are evolving. They're maturing in a weird way, and so that immediately brings me to the question: is there a watch that you have either regretted buying or regretted selling?
Oh,
I bring the hard questions, man. You should, maybe you knew that already, but
I
dude, I,
did.
okay, all right.
I would have to say regret buying. No,
Oh wow. Okay.
I, I,
Wow.
I don't regret any watches that I've purchased. I do regret selling. I sold. Well, actually, you know what? I don't. I don't. The only regret of a watch that I've sold was, I had a '70s Thunderbird,
Oh shit. Nice.
and I sold it. But why it was love hate was because I sold it to buy my wife's engagement ring.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, this is why I hate that I sold it, right? Because my rationale was, oh, I can't take all this money like and buy this like huge diamond ring and I have all these watches here. Let me start parting with the watches. But the funny thing is, why I hate that I sold it is because the money that I took to sell the watch, I never used to buy the ring. I brought the ring
Oh,
anyway.
okay,
and then
okay.
I took the money, and then I don't even know what the heck I did with the money. I just like burned it.
That's what
So it's like
happens.
I was like, well, and I think and I think my wife. So shout out to my wife, Mary. I think she was like, why'd you do that? Like, she was like, because I had like I brought the ring, I proposed, I did all those things, and then I sold the watch. But I think it was kind of like it was like aligning, and like in my mind, I was like, well, I'm gonna I'm gonna line this up, I'm gonna sell it, and then I'll buy the ring simultaneously. But I said, well, I don't want to wait. Let me buy this ring. If it happens, it happens. And so it happened. And then at that point, because I knew the guy that I sold it to, um, I was like, well, I could always buy it back. Um, if I ever wanted to if I ever missed it or anything like that. And so I was like, okay, it's going to a good home. Like this guy was just excited about the watch just as much as I am. So if I sell a watch, I want to make sure I sell it to someone that loves it just as much as I do. So I don't sell watches for profit.
Sure.
Um, I don't, and sometimes I don't even sell watches. Sometimes I gift watches.
Same.
Um, so now part of why I had that hate part was because I thought that this guy was gonna keep the watch,
Oh,
and
come
he
on.
didn't. And
Oh,
and that's my thing. So I think with non-watch people, because he was like a watch, like he's more of a fan than like an enthusiast, right?
sure,
I
sure,
think
sure.
there's like two different type of like people that like watches. I think he's a fan and he enjoys the idea of like owning a watch and having like something that like you can look down to and kind of appreciate. But he brought the watch from me. Mary tried to buy it back from him secretly, so I didn't know because this was a friend.
Oh.
So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
he's a good friend. So she like reached out to him on the sign, was like, "Hey, listen, you know what? Rashawn really loved that watch. Like, I'd love to buy it back from you." And he was like, "Oh no, I love the watch. I promise I'll keep it." And then he had DM'd me about another watch. I was like sharing some watches on Instagram. Usually we text, but he like DM'd me, and I found that to be weird. He was like, "Yo, what's up with that watch?" And I was like, "Dude, you just brought a watch," and he goes, "Oh man, he's like, yeah, I'm looking for a watch," and then I was like, "Okay, cool. Since you like this one, either we can work out a deal and we can offset the price for this for that." And he goes, "Man, I don't even have that watch anymore." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
What?
I like steam coming from my ears, but I had to I had to swallow it because I knew that he wasn't a watch guy.
Yeah.
So
Man,
I
that
think
is
that was like my biggest regret because I didn't need to sell the watch.
sure.
I
Yeah, yeah.
sold it to kind of feel like I was being responsible.
Yeah. Yeah, like trying to do the right thing, help
Yeah.
somebody get into it, help somebody get a good deal, kind of pass the love down. That is my number one rule. That is my number one rule.
Sell
If
it back
I
to me first.
Yeah, if I sell a watch to somebody, which I very rarely do, if you're listening, go back to the person who sold it to you and give them the first right of refusal.
Yes, yes.
That's rule number one.
Rule number one.
And yeah, that's disappointing. What watch was it? I don't think you said.
No, 70s Thunderbird.
Oh, okay. Oh shit. Okay,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Sorry, sorry,
They
sorry.
just they just 36. So I also like to collect smaller watches. Um, Not necessarily smaller than like 36.
Right.
But I like to collect like traditional men's size. So because like I said, my favorite era is 90s. So basically, you know, I like to kind of stay true to that. So I do own a Ulysse Nardin. I
Naturally.
have a diver,
Same.
which is 40, what is it? I think it's like 43, 44 millimeters. But I mean, it doesn't get much of his time because it's so big.
Dude,
But it wears well. It's fine.
I wear a 45 sometimes, man. I got a little
Yeah.
baby wrist. I don't give a shit, man. I don't care.
No,
I,
and I think watches should just be worn. Like I don't know why people are like, oh, does this look good on my wrist? Is this like, oh, this is
yeah.
too big for me? It's like it's not. It's not a thing about like if it's too big
Yeah.
or not. It's like,
It's like
well,
how's it feel?
how does it feel?
Yeah.
How does it feel?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And it's more about like this measurement than it is like this measurement. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Um, let's jump back into the podcast real quick. And
Yes.
I'm curious to get your opinion on what you feel makes a great podcast episode.
Oh man. Uh, I would have to say I think, context and storytelling is always at the top of the secret sauce, right? I think, it's easy to get behind a mic and, share what's on your mind. But you have to be able to deliver something that the audience has never seen or has never heard, or if they have heard it, they want to hear a different perspective and align themselves or provoke thought for them to make a decision for themselves.
Totally.
Um, I think, great podcast episodes are ones where, you know, you have someone that can, you know, um, express themselves openly and candidly, and it not be political, it not be, you know, where you have to be mindful of what you say. Like I try my best to be methodical when I am speaking, but usually it just comes right off the top. Like I'm like going, of course, like I've taken the questions, or if I am delivering questions, right, I'm very intentional in what I ask because I'm looking to get a specific kind of response. And if I don't get that response, then I'm like, well, tell me more or dig in, or for our viewers, for our listeners, can you explain or expound a little bit more?
I mean, yeah, I can't I can't agree more with you. I mean, you as a podcaster, your whole goal is to like extract information and package it. And I've started to think I mean, gosh, my first episode was terrible, but I started to think of it as like a wave, like you have the ebbs and flows, and like, I'll pull back and then I'll punch in, and then I'll pull back and I'll punch in, and that's the way that I try to look at it, and I try and jump around and just have fun with it. Like, cause, something that I've thought about too. And, I guess this is weird to say, but before I got into doing watch podcasting, I got in it very naturally. Like I left the watch industry, as a retailer, as a retail professional. And I was like, everybody who I like had contacts with was like just wanting to talk watches. And I'm
Hmm.
like maybe I should do a Zoom where, because every release would come out, like, oh, maybe I should just do a Zoom with all the people that I know and watches and just talk about my opinions on the release or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, yes.
and then it came back to like, well, if I do a Zoom, then they can ask me questions. So I can't like, like pack as much information into it as I want to.
Hmm.
So then my wife was like, dude, just do a podcast. And then boom,
That's how it
and
happens.
and I had never like done any research. Like I had never listened to other watch podcasts. I had never consumed really like outside of YouTube, like other watch media. And then as I started listening, I mean, I listened to your podcast. And I started, I mean, going down other podcast rabbit holes, like, where I listen to like entertainment podcasts, anything. Um, but something that I kind of noticed is like most of the watch media is like really buttoned up. Like you have
Yeah.
that top button like buttoned,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I'm like, I got a little bit of meat hair hanging out, right? Like
Yes.
a little bit of chest hair, like maybe two buttons on, but you guys are like
Yeah.
ripped off shirt, like and just it was like, okay, this is the type of media I like to consume, like no holds bar, like real talks with real people, and you just don't see that. You don't see that as much anymore.
Hmm.
Especially in the industry where everybody's got some shit to sell,
Yeah.
and that's what I've even tried to educate with brands, like whenever I have people, not necessarily people that come on, but you
Hmm.
know, off the recording session where I'm like, hey, like watches are changing. Like the way that people buy watches are evolving. And it's more about if you embrace the community
Hmm.
will embrace you.
Yeah.
And I actually had this same exact discussion with a watch brand 2 weeks ago. And they were talking about Rolex this, Rolex that, like, like
Hmm.
use they were literally trying to like, I mean, they just kept saying Rolex a bunch. And I was like, are you really trying to compare yourself to Rolex?
You never can.
I
You
I
never
thought
can.
I thought about that, but then I said something to her. Um, it was the brand president. I was like, "You have something that Rolex doesn't have," and she's like, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And I was like, "You have an enthusiast brand.
Yes.
Like you can see a Rolex on just like you live in New York, like you could just see some dude walking down from the finance district, just got one watch, it's a damn Rolex, and he's not a watch guy, he just got a nice watch.
Yeah.
But then when you wear their brand, I'm not gonna say, I don't want to throw them under the bus. I'll tell you
Of
later.
course. Of
Um,
course.
but when you wear their watch, like people are like, oh fuck, dude, that is a watch guy.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and
Yes.
brands dream to have that
Yes.
in their recipe,
Yeah.
and
I have to agree. I really have to agree. What I will say is you know, I think brands are looking at like what their ROI is overall, and so
totally
they don't always feel incentivized to like embrace the community, because they're like, well, if we throw a party, if we do an event, or if we give free booze, if we do this, we do that, like where's the return on the investment? But I think, just to kind of speak to the activations that we've done, with a brand like Ulysse Nardin and so many others, um, you know, I think what you're trying to create is converts. Like you're if you plan to be in this game for the long haul, right? Like this isn't some like fly by night thing, right? This is
totally
generational. This is something that has to pay forward. Like, even with like what's going on with Rolex, and something that I wanted to kind of mention when I was talking about like the 90s is like,
yeah.
I mean, people were choosing Tag Heuer watches over Rolex watches in the
Omega
90s.
too, yeah,
Like, so the thing is, this like Rolex phenomenon, like the thing is that it could have been any brand. It doesn't matter. It just so happened to be Rolex. The thing is that we're all confused as to why it is Rolex. But the thing is, like, why can't it be you? It doesn't matter. It
yeah,
doesn't matter. These guys haven't done anything any more special than anyone else has. If you ask me, they've actually done far less. Um, I think that, you know, the people just spoke. The people spoke and they chose a champion,
yeah,
and the champion is Rolex. That's just really what it is. But that doesn't mean that that tide doesn't turn, and then in the next, I don't know, 20, 30 years, that doesn't shift, and you're the guy, or you're the girl. It does it
yeah,
you have to just stay down and stick to the mission. You can't look to what everybody else is doing. It doesn't matter what they're doing. Like, we making watches, we making money, We embracing the community. We have true collectors. We have people that love our product because I mean, there's watch brands out there that no one loves their product. You don't have
Yeah.
if you don't have that problem, then I mean, what are you whining about?
Yeah. No, me and my friend, we do like a Tuesday night like stream where we just go on YouTube and we just have a bunch of us, there's like six, seven people, and we just all talk shit about watches. And one of the guys that, I mean, dude, he's awesome. He's out in New York. I'll have to, when next time I come to New York, I'll have to link up with him
Yeah.
and you. He's awesome guy. He goes to all the auctions, whatever. Um, but he and I, like after the stream, like we were looking back into like historical sales data, and in 2014, for every one Rolex that was sold, an Omega was sold. They were literally 1 to 1
Mm,
in terms of conversions out the door, like watch sales.
yes.
Um, and then if you start to look back, bigger picture, I literally had this argument like maybe a week ago, and I couldn't help myself, but I went to the Rolex boutique and there was this new girl, and like she was all up on the cornflakes, you know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
Rolex is the best, and da 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 da. And I was like, do you really know like who you're like do you really know like what you're talking about or like who you're talking to? Like, not to
Yes.
sound arrogant or anything, but
Yes.
like you start to transcend like Rolex at some point, and you
Yes.
realize that Rolex is a brand. They're like the De Beers of watches, where they say, look, you have to, spend 3 months of your salary to get a diamond for your wife or whatever, what
Mm,
have you. Like,
mm,
um, and they were at the right place in the right time where they started using ambassadors like before anybody else did. And like, you can look at when they had like Tenzing Norgay, who like summited, like these crazy
yes.
mountains, or look at I think it was there was some lady that swam across the English Channel or
Yes.
something.
Yes. Yes. I
Um,
think her name was Mercedes Gleitz. I think something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
something like that.
Yeah.
And so they were just at the right place at the right time, and they were like, look, getting our watches on the wrist of great people, like
Yes.
that's the strategy now.
Mm-hmm.
And full circle moment, like boom, like mic drop. You're right. Like UN is, I guess we can use UN because we're talking about it, but they get it.
Yes.
They fully embrace the community and they understand like buying a watch is like buying a car,
Yes.
like you can't buy a car in a day. Like, I
Mm-mm.
mean, you can, but you got to fucking sit in the finance office for like 6 hours and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. For
it's,
sure.
and you think really hard about buying a car. Like, you do so
Yes.
much research.
Yes.
And, now the customers are so educated,
Mm-hmm.
they half the time, if not more, know more than the salesperson.
Oh, for sure.
Um, and brands are starting to get that. And if you embrace this community as passionate as we are, like we're going to embrace you and we're never going to let you fall or let you die. Like, we got you.
Yes. Yes.
And I literally try to have that exact same discussion with anybody that asks me, if they're crazy enough
Mm-hmm.
to ask me, like, what should we do to get more watch sales or whatever, you know what I mean? Or get our
Yes.
watch in front of a larger audience. And I'm like, just stay in your lane and embrace the industry. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like that's really all you need to do. I know that sounds very simple, like overly simple, but
Well, the thing is that it is. It genuinely is that simple. The thing is, how long are you going to stick it out to see all of your hard work pay off? And
yeah,
I think a brand like H Moser, right, is a testament to that as well because they have you know, gone through so many changes and transitions, right? From if you think about the inception of the brand, you know, like starting out, I think they might have started out in like the 1950s or something like that, to go dormant for the Malin brothers to pick up the brand, right, with
yeah,
their business background and acumen to understand. And the funny thing is, like the Malin brothers, right? They aren't watchmakers. These guys are business guys. Like,
totally.
their father was a CEO at AP. Like, so these guys come in with a business mind and they understand how to grow and how to scale a business. So, what do they need to do to scale the business? Well, we don't have product now, but we need to create some kind of hype. How do you do that? You talk about the Swiss Alps, you talk about the Swiss cheese watch, you talk about, the what was it?
The
the
Vanta Black.
the Vanta Black,
Yeah.
the Franken watches, like all of those things to get people talking. And the funny thing is that none of those watches were for sale, but it sparked conversation. And then you go, boom, here's a hit. Boom, here's another hit. Boom, here's one more. Not only are you going to, you know, get great product, right? You're going to get great events. You're going to have access to our staff, right? Shout out to Claudio. We always shout out Claudio. But
Amazing guy.
he's an amazing guy. He's accessible. He's worked in the in the industry on both sides of the counter, right? You talk about wholesale, you talk about retail. This guy, you know lives and breathes the retail experience. Those are the type of people you need around, not the yes man, not the dude that's trying to like hide what's really going on with the CEO. And
Yeah.
a lot of I can even tell you in most of sorry, we got an hour and I'm like cooking up
No, no,
already.
dude, I go till you want to stop talking. That's the way we do it here, bro.
Because then I start cooking, because then my gears start grinding.
Go for
And
it, dude.
for as many industries that I've worked in, and I'm talking about fashion, fitness, nightlife, food service, watches, wholesale, retail, B2B, B2C, anything in between. I've done it all. And that's just the New York in me, right? Like the New York hustler. Um, but what I've never really, really understood is when you don't tell the boss the truth. And if the guy comes in the store, or if you're on a Zoom meeting and he goes, "Well, how's business?" You go, "Man, this shit sucks."
Yeah.
Like, like, and excuse my French because I usually don't use profanity, but like the thing is, you need someone to really tell you what it is. Like trying to like play this dance around game to keep your job, like that's whack. Like that's
Totally.
whack. And I think that, is part of why we started Super Niche Studios. Like we went from like the podcast to then, taking it full circle, right? We went on to create this media platform to really put it out there to be like, well, this is how it's supposed to be done. And this is the blueprint. Like you can follow it, you can accept it, you can reject it. Like there's value in what we bring, and we don't gatekeep, we don't hide. Like the recipe is there, the proof's in the pudding. Like for anyone that has any confusion as to why we can act or speak this openly and candidly about this industry, is because we put in the work. you know, and now to be able to put in the work for yourself. I've worked for retailers and nobody has sent me to Switzerland. I've never been to Switzerland courtesy of a watch brand. I go to Switzerland on my own dime. I go to
Yeah.
Switzerland on my own merit, on my own hard work, and I go on a press pass. I don't go on the public days, which last year we had access to both press and public, and we hung out and we met with people and we took photos and we did everything. This year we didn't have that access. But the thing is, it's so easy to be kind of like shoved to the side and being like, okay, that's cute, but back to regular scheduled programming. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
dude, just tell the fucking truth. Like if the guy wants to know, or the girl, or if they want to know what is going on, fucking tell them.
Yeah, I know. I transcended that a long time ago, like in my professional life, and I work in IT and cybersecurity, so like I can just say like, dude, shit's hitting the fan, man. Like we need to buckle up, or
Yeah.
like put your goggles on, like and no, yeah. So I literally like was one of those hush lip dudes for like the whole first like half of my career, and
Mm.
the second that I actually like unzipped and started like talking was when I got in trouble.
Yeah, oh yeah, for
And
sure.
and I'm
Everybody gets afraid of you.
and I'm like I'm not the guy putting the turd in the punch bowl. Like I found it there.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
dude,
I mean,
it,
but that's why you're creating your own. I think, this is the perfect time to be a creative, to be an entrepreneur, to actually like bet on yourself. This is the perfect time to do it because people are now intrigued with this social media era, and people are yearning for information. People are yearning for the truth. And you know, I think in our line of work, right, everything is subjective. What I say is not law,
totally.
but there are going to be a couple people that are going to feel what I'm going to say, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to disagree. But that's open for discussion, and that's where the value is, the fact that you can provoke thought. So, you know, for anyone listening that has a dream or has a passion or wants to, bet on themselves and to figure out, what it takes to get there, you put one foot in front of the other. There's no other way to do it.
No,
This is what it
I,
is.
I'm laughing because in my head I'm like, when we were in Geneva, everybody was calling you Rashawn Luther King, and and so as you were just talking, I was like, Rashawn Luther King moment right here.
Oh yeah, I told you I start like once I start cooking, then it gets crazy. I don't know.
No, no, that's amazing. And I feel like I'm very privileged to be in this space and be able to, first of all, to have an audience, to for if if I would have looked back like 2 years ago, I'm be like, nobody's gonna fucking listen to me talk. Like nobody gives a shit about what I think, you know? And then that was before like, and then I also thought like, all right, there's so many people out there who have like much louder voices and much better at talking. Like they have a, they're much more polished or whatever, right? Like,
Mhm.
why would they ever listen to me? You know? And that was years ago, and I had no idea like how far this would take me, but um, I didn't do it for that.
No.
I didn't do it to. At first, I was like, I just want to do this for me, you
Yes.
know and then as like I started getting like whether it's like trolls or hate or like even like like people that like send me those like really amazing messages like dude like I love your podcast, keep it up, like I can't wait for your next one. Like if I get 100 hate messages and I get one of those,
Hmm.
like bro, I'm gonna fucking keep going,
Yeah.
you know
Absolutely. You can't
and
listen. You can't stop.
yeah, I'm too deep, I'm like too deep in to stop. And yeah, I mean, now my wife, like whenever I started, like she didn't really understand, but now she sees.
The funny thing is, if it isn't like if you don't get that response of like so what's this podcast thing about? Like
Yeah, I
or
know.
or or you guys talk about watches all day. Like it's so much bigger than that. And as I'm listening to you speak, I really think about, let's say you take someone like Joe Rogan, for example,
Right.
or a Joe Budden, or a Noriega.
Sure.
um these guys have put in thousands of episodes. Like, you know they say for you to what is it, to be a master at a craft, you need to put in 10,000 hours. It's like,
I've heard that. Yeah, something like that.
like you can't, there's no way. Like, dude, you haven't even put in your 10,000 hours yet. Like, you can't even quit yet. You haven't even mastered this. Like, even like a sports analogy, it's like, dude, if you haven't shot 1,000 free throws before you left the gym, like, what makes you think that you're going to win a championship? How do you think that you're going to consider yourself the best? Like, natural talent is one thing, but mastering and perfecting the craft, and knowing the ins and out of the game is something that, it can't be given to you. You got to earn that.
Yeah. I I
So
I
yeah,
feel
it's true.
I feel like you can never truly like master something. Like maybe it's just my opinion,
Hmm.
but because there's always people out there who are pushing that goalpost or moving that goalpost. And so so yeah, there's always going to be somebody who's like millions of years ahead. And, I mean, we're talking about creative. We're talking about creative work here. Like this is, I wouldn't consider this a product. I don't really know. I don't really know what to call this. It's just an expression. Like this is a creative outlet. This is an expression of you and I right there in this moment, the way that we feel, the things that are coming out of our mouths. Um, but the goalpost is always moving, and we're in a creative space. So like, there's always going to be somebody more creative. There's always going to be somebody less creative, and
Yes.
um, it's all about just kind of going. Just, I mean,
Yes.
no matter what direction. Like, sometimes
Hmm.
I'm going this way, sometimes I'm going that way. Like it's just going. It's just
Yeah.
continuing to publish, continuing to push, continuing, and I like admitted this. Like, I don't know if I admitted this on like which episode I admitted it on. I don't even look at the data, dude. I don't even look at the data.
And you shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't. The thing is, like, it really, the for those guys that are light years ahead or the ones that are far behind, at the end of the day, those are the individuals that actually keep you working, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
if someone's not that great, you go ahead and you go, well, I'm going to show you how better I am. And if someone is just, if someone has taken it as far as you have, you go, man, I want to get there. So I think, whether you're at the back of the race or leading the pack, there's one of the two things that have to happen. You have to get to the front, or you don't want to fall to the back.
Yeah.
And so being mid pack and being, you know, comfortable is something that I never really want to like be in.
Sure.
Um, I'm okay if someone says my content isn't great because it just inspires me to want to do better. And I
Yeah.
never want to be in a position where someone says that my content is the best because then you get lost in what it takes to take it to the next level. Like for, someone like, I don't know, Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan was not the best. He became the best,
Right.
but you had Magic, you had Clyde, you had Wilt, you had Bill, you had Bird, you had Isaiah, you had all of these guys. I mean, even Scotty, right? Scotty gets on the
The
podcast and he's
dude,
flaming Michael up.
90s NBA was like golden era, man.
But the 90s was the best for everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you think about like the Last Dance, and you know when Mike was getting his ass kicked, he was like, okay, I'm doing these amazing things, but I'm not winning championships. What do I need to do? Oh, I thought I put in the work. No, you didn't put in the work. You got 5,000 hours in. You need another five. You're halfway there. You gotta hit the gym, right? You gotta stop probably gambling. You gotta chill with the cigars. I don't know any. I'm just paraphrasing. I'm joking
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
between,
Yeah,
but you
okay,
know what I
sure.
mean. Like you can tell there was a shift somewhere for him to go ahead and to step into two three peats. And the reason why, of course, he didn't. Why there was a break between the three peats because he went on to play baseball. This guy could have probably won easily 7 to 8 championships in a row.
Totally. Yeah, no, I mean it makes sense. And yeah, I mean it's crazy to think like you always have to keep going. Like you're never gonna reach your peak. Like you're always on the journey.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. That's what I love. Just not only about the watchmanship, but it's life.
Yes.
Like there's always, and if you're that midfield guy, nothing wrong with that.
No.
But like you're probably in the wrong race. Like you need
Yes.
to surround yourself with people who think like you.
Hmm.
And it just even just to push you a little
Yeah.
harder. You don't
Yeah.
have to be number one always.
Mm-mm.
Like, I mean, there's
Mm-mm.
nothing wrong being two or three or four or five or six or whatever. Like,
Just have a just be in the race.
Yeah.
That's the biggest takeaway from it all. It doesn't matter where you believe that you are. It's the fact that you're there, because there's so many people that don't compete. So
Yeah.
you've already won. You've already won. Someone that can turn around and be like, well, your content is great. It's like, well, isn't great. You go ahead and say, well, what have you contributed? What have you done? What have you done creatively? Or how have you expressed yourself? What have you contributed to for you to judge or to give an opinion? And that's okay, even for the ones that are qualified for it. Thank you, but I'm not interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I got what I got going on over here. There's space for everyone here. And, I welcome to come on anyone's platform, for anyone to come on mine. I'm someone that's like an open book. And like I said, once I start cooking, then it just,
Yeah.
then the temperature just changes. But,
Totally.
I think there needs to be more, collaboration. And that's why from the top of our conversation, I used the word, I started with community and then collaboration, right?
Right.
Because you join this community, you join this hobby, you then find welcoming and like-minded people, and then you say, hey, we should do something together. We should actually see this through. And for, myself and the platform that I have, is nothing for me to come on to yours, because I'm able to expose myself to your audience the same as I am to you. And so it's not about, hey, I have 200 plus episodes, Blake has 50, 60, 70 episodes, and I go ahead and say, well, he's got to do more for me to want to,
Sure.
or you have to pay me, or we have.
Right.
Listen, I need what Beyonce say, because funny enough, I'm actually in Chicago now, and Beyonce's in town, so she's performing. But Beyonce would be like, I need M&M peanuts without the peanuts, and you're
Yeah.
like,
Like,
wait.
yeah. Oh no, if you want to, like, artists, I used to work in a media company where we would book like talent or whatever, and there was like, and on their writers, like all that bullshit. Like, I need the peanuts with just the just the red M&M peanuts. You know what I mean? It's like, what the,
What are you
yeah.
exactly, like? So in that, it's like, you never want to alienate yourself,
Yeah.
and you may not always want to be as available, but you have to have that equal balance, because you can block blessings, and you could, you never know what a conversation, or what can channel, what can come out of you for you to inspire another viewer, another listener, or somebody that wants to do what you do, or you inspire.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel privileged to be in that position because you know like kind of like I said how I got into it, like it just became like, let's just have these discussions and let's just record them and then let's just
Hmm.
like archive them.
Yes.
And then it became, okay, well, let's brand it. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, okay. Like, so, I know we're putting the cart before the horse at this, but whatever,
It's
and
all right. It's all right.
and yeah, I mean, there's no way I'm ever gonna stop. But
Keep
but
going. Don't
but
don't don't stop.
but no, the fact is that ironically, and we're new friends, newish friends.
Yes.
But whenever I was going to Geneva, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if somebody brought the community together, like the watch influencer community or whatever you want to call me. I don't really call myself an influencer, a creator,
Yes.
um, or personality. But what if somebody and lo and behold, like
We
you
did
got you
it.
guys were the glue. You guys were the glue.
We
Like
did it. We
like
did it.
I
It's
would.
and it's funny too, because I don't I don't know if people recognize what we do and how much we contribute, and there's neither here nor there for that. But because it's so earnest, it's amazing. Like I'm very happy that you even like have acknowledged that and have even shared that on your platform, because like I said, I'm from New York City. I'm from the inner city. I come from a whole totally different background where like affording these things or having these luxuries or even to be able to travel past, 2 3 city blocks, like that's not a thing where I come from. And so to have this opportunity and then to create that moment in Geneva, to be like, well, where the heck did I
How did
have
I get?
access
How did
to
I get here?
50? I had access to 50 people to go ahead and just like throw this grand, beautiful, event with a watch brand, and it was magical.
Yeah, yeah. I think I also talked about. I haven't tried to talk too much about it because I want you guys to release the episodes, and then I could start talking a little bit more about it. So I've been watching, but no, no. I mean, there was so much magic in that room,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
yeah, it's crazy. I even told my wife, like, like my wife was like, oh, like, my wife was, I mean, unfortunately, she was. Oh, and your wife is amazing, by the way. I probably should have said that
Thank
earlier
you.
when you shouted
Thank
her out.
you.
But no, no, no. Like, my wife was unfortunate enough that she had to stay behind and take care of the life stuff, the dogs, the family stuff. But when I came back, like my wife was like, like, did you have a good time? I was like, it was tiring, and she's like, well, come on, like, what sticks out? And I was like, I went to this amazing party. And she's like, but I was doing parties every night. Like I was
Yeah.
doing, like I did a Zenith party, I did a Chrono Tokyo event, like I did. God, what else? I can't even remember all these other parties I did. Like I did a
Mm,
Panerai party. Like anyways, like I just was like, this is the one that sticks out,
thank
and
you.
it
Thank
was
you.
it wasn't, and in a weird way, it wasn't. I don't really know how to describe it because like we all it wasn't about watches. Like I
No.
didn't even get the feeling it was about watches,
No.
but it was just about bringing the right people together, like
Mm,
with the right passion. You know what I mean? It's like where you look, and there's a lot of people like who I had like consumed their media, like Georgia, somebody I've been following for, I don't know, like maybe a year or more, like maybe 2 years, and I was like, and I didn't even tell her. I probably should tell her this, but I was like, I was sitting across from her. I was looking. I was like, "Fuck, there's Georgia Benjamin, like sitting right across from me."
That's
And then,
amazing.
when I look over, it's like Ben's watches.
Yes.
I'm like, "Oh, like fuck, there's Ben's watches sitting right there."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, you and Perry and people who I've consumed your content for a while. Um, it was humbling. It was cool. It was fun. I mean, it was, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I won't forget it ever. I won't forget
Thank you.
ever.
I'm very happy that you definitely like mentioned that, because there were a lot of opportunities where we could have just like blown it out and been like, yeah, it's like we let our guests speak about the party, and you know I think that's the part that's extremely humbling, where you have people like your guests say that like they had one of the most memorable moments in a time where you know you're with you could be with anybody else in the world, but you're here with me, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There let me say this for the record. There was no NDAs that had to be signed.
No, no, no NDAs. We listen. I can't wait for people to see, all of the fun that we
Yeah,
had
totally,
at
totally.
that party. And I think more brands need to kind of like look at, what they can do to make it more than just the watches, right? Because there were no watches on display, right? Of course, like there were brand ambassadors,
Yeah.
we all were wearing like UNs and stuff like that. But like past that, it was really about us all being able to break bread together as people that contribute to horology, people that, love horology, uh, people that are going to do amazing things in horology, and to just like celebrate. It was really, really a time to celebrate.
Yeah. I mean, well said. Well said. I don't have anything to add to that. Um, I got like let's see if I can get a couple more questions out of you. I
Yes,
don't want to take up
yes.
too much of your time. I know you're probably tired. You've been
No,
traveling. Um,
it's all good.
is let me. So I'm curious, and we all have these moments. We kind of like touched on it a little bit. But where was it in your journey as a creator that you knew that you just couldn't stop? Like is it something that somebody said? Is it something that you felt? Like where were you like, okay, cool, I've got the recipe. I just need to keep scaling. I just need to keep batching up. Like
Mm,
what was that moment? How did it happen and how'd you get there?
uh, I would have to say two moments. I think in the early inception, it was when we started doing a lot of creative things with Sotheby's. When we were working heavily with the watch department at Sotheby's, shout out to Rich Lopez and Vince and the crew that was there at the time. Um, we were probably maybe 30, 40 episodes in, probably not even that far, but they took a chance on us, and they sponsored a few events, and they actually, I don't, they took care of us, um, and it. I mean, it was still like it was one of those surreal moments. Like, I mean, I was like, wait, hold on. So these guys are cutting a check for, it's like Sotheby's. Wait, what's going on? Like it just, my mind was like, it was like, so that's when I knew we had something special, because we started to break the mold. So, you know,
Right.
how auction houses are,
Totally.
it's the affluent, it's, the more mature, right? The people that have been in this space for as long as they have, and probably have not been exposed to someone like myself, or haven't been exposed to someone like me culturally. So they may be confused. And in the early beginning, it was kind of like one of those things where you kind of like moving around the room and people are like, well, who's this guy?
Right, 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 right.
And it's like, well, my name is Rashawn Smith. Welcome to, the Rich Check Pod event. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
wait,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it was like kind of one of those moments, and it made me feel really good. But then where I really, really knew that dreams could come true was when I had the opportunity to like sit down with Jean-Claude Biver and have like a full-on, you know, conversation with him and pick his brain, like to really speak to an icon on the same level and same playing field. It's not like, let's just say when he was active as like a CEO of like, a few of the Swatch Group brands, and he walks into a showroom and he's like, what's going on here? And everybody's like, sipping the Kool-Aid. It was like really one of those moments where you could be unapologetically yourself and authentic. And he really appreciated that. And he told us that we had something special, and that came through ways of his son,
Yeah.
Pierre. Pierre is an amazing young man who sees the future and is going to continue to carry the torch for the Biver family. And I think what's so magical about Jean-Claude Biver is the fact that he is a realist. Like he flat out said, he's like, I'm going to die. Like it's like I am going to expire. People kind of run away from the inevitability of like, you know, this is the you're gonna be at your victory lap. Is you're actually gonna be at your hoorah. And he's like, this is my last run. I'm gonna take it as far as I can, and my son is gonna take it even further. And he has Pia now has welcomed a beautiful baby girl into the world. You know, when he's 50 years into the industry, when he's 75, when he's 80 years old, and his daughter's in in her early 30s or wherever she is at the time when she wants to get into the business, if she does want to get into business, that's that's magical.
Totally.
And that there put me in the frame of mind where I was like, there's no way I could stop now. I got the stamp from the GOAT. I can't disappoint this man.
Yeah.
He told me that I gotta keep going. So that's what I'm gonna do.
It's so funny, and I think, yeah, I mean, gosh, we could keep going. Uh but no, it's like, all right, shit, this is full circle. Like, we're finishing right where we just started, you know. You know, like, the passion is here. Like, dude, I love everything that you're doing. I mean
Thank you.
that. Um, I look to you guys, definitely as innovators and people that are kind of breaking the mold. Um, the industry needs people like you, you
Thank you.
know. And yeah, I'm excited to now be, for you to come on. I never thought you guys would ever come on a podcast. I
Oh,
never really like even ever expected something like that. But I
this
mean,
is my first pod interview too.
really,
This is my first.
fuck, dude, that's
I
crazy.
usually do the interviewing, and now I'm being interviewed. So thank you. So this is my first interview.
Dude, I have gotten a couple people over that hurdle. I think it was Miss GMT, which
Yes.
she's a good one. Sophie, I think she
Yes.
was she was one like that I got over, um, but no. I mean, we're all here. We all have stories. We all have a unique perspective. We're all contributing in different ways. We're all pushing the same big rock, which is the watch industry, up the mountain.
Yeah.
We're all hoping it doesn't roll back on us,
Yes.
and yeah, I'm glad that we got connected, and we were, now you're a part of my family,
Absolutely. Same
and
here.
whatever you need from my side, on the West Coast. Now you got people over here,
Of
you know.
course. Of course.
So I
Yes,
definitely
I'm
look
excited.
forward to seeing you on my side in Vegas, and
Yes.
definitely bring the wife. Um, and
Yes.
and same thing. I'll be in New York soon-ish. I don't know exactly when, but I'm working on some stuff out there.
Give me a
Because
shout.
I haven't been to New York in a really long time.
Hmm.
And last time I was there was not very fun.
Oh,
I-
we'll make
in,
sure. We'll make sure it's a good time.
I know. New York, if you don't be careful, can eat you alive.
Oh yeah, yeah, it can.
It can, but thank you so much for
Thank you
spending
for
time
having
with
me.
us,
Yes,
and yeah, I'll certainly at some point, oh, I forgot the most important question.
please.
10 years from now, where are you gonna be?
Oh man,
I
10 years
forgot
from
that
now.
one. I forgot that one.
I'm glad. I'm glad you asked that. 10 years from now, I I'd love to. I'd love to get to a place where all that I've contributed uh, for my hobbies and my passion, I can give it back. I can give it back, and I can, support others' dreams and empower them and inspire them to actually take the risk, the same risk that I have. Um, so I would have to say 10 years from now, probably with a mega studio somewhere out in the boonies, shooting movies. I don't freaking know. Something crazy. But I think I think that's probably where I'd want to be, producing more shows and supporting others' dreams.
I mean, that's what it's all about. I was joking too with I can't remember who I was talking to. I mean, the same I had the same conversation with those people. But somebody said like, who like what guests will you have on your podcast that you've made it, in the watch industry, or at least like you're breaking into new fields. And um I don't think I've ever seen this person who we all know has the best watch collection ever, but has never ever talked about it.
Wait, hold on. We cut out for a sec because I think what part did you catch from what I said?
You were talking about just sharing with the community.
Okay, because I wasn't sure because when you came back, you were in the middle of what you were saying. So what were you saying
Oh.
from the top?
Somebody asked me, and I've had the same discussion with a couple people, but they're like, if you could accomplish one thing in 10 years, in the watch industry, and, what would that be? If I could put it down to one event instead of saying, hey, here's what I hope to be, um, and I look at like Wahlberg, like, dude, like, Katie, like, Mark Wahlberg, if you're listening, like, like come talk about watches. Like we all
Yes,
know you got the sickest watch, but yeah. Yeah, I think that would be
that'd be huge.
I know. I know.
I,
And
I
he's
think you could. I think you could do that sooner.
well
There
he lives here in my city.
you go. You.
I
I
just need to
mean,
work on it somehow.
man, shoot. You never know. You get them next week.
I need to reach out to your people and have your people get a hold of it because they'll reply to your people, but they won't reply to my people.
Oh man, you'd be surprised how many people leave us on
Oh,
red.
I know. I do. I get it all the time. I get it all the
It's all
time.
right. It's all right. Listen,
Yeah,
they'll come back
I'm
and it'll
dude,
be
I
twice the price.
something that somebody told me a long time ago, funny, and we'll leave it on a positive note. But I was trying to break into the film industry because I went to film school, and
Mm,
my whole dream was to do like a car commercial.
mm,
Like that was just my whole dream to do an exotic like car commercial.
wow.
And I was like, my dad was a very inspirational figure to me, and he was just like, he was an entrepreneur. Like I come from a whole family of just serial entrepreneurs. Like my mom,
Mm,
my dad, my sister, like everybody has their own business.
wow.
And anyway, so my dad's like, well, what are you gonna do to do it? And I'm like, I don't know, just hope somebody sees my work and da 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 da. And and anyways, so he's like, you can't do that. Like you gotta put yourself out there. And I was like,
Hmm.
so what I did was I went into this damn car dealership. I'll never forget it. When I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. I, I
Okay.
would I would go in there once a week, dude. Like, hey, like, oh, like, they just kept seeing me, dude. Like this little, I'm 19-year old kid, like stars in my eyes, like
Yes.
passion like seeping out of me. Like I just kept going in there every week. And then
Wow.
they're like, no, 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 no. I mean, dude, I don't even know how many no's I got, but I just kept
Yeah.
going in there. I just kept going.
Yeah.
They're like, when are you going to stop coming? I'm like, till you say yes. And then they're like, all right, well, fuck, now we got to say yes. And I shot that car commercial. You better believe it, dude.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I'm like the Terminator. So
Keep going. You get
yeah,
you you get right back up.
people that leave me on red, people that leave me on red, and
It's all
I'm
right.
coming. I'm coming.
It's
No,
all
it
right.
doesn't hurt my feelings. It just makes it fun. Makes
Yes.
it fun.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for spending so much time with us. Can't wait
Absolutely.
to.
I hope this wasn't too much for your viewers.
No, no, dude. We did like over 2 hours with Kelly Yock.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that was crazy. And we did like almost 2 hours with Cameron Barr from Craft and Tailored.
Oh, okay,
Like,
good.
dude, we go in. We go in.
I
And
love
we
that.
get we get people that are like, oh, like I'll listen to like half of it on the drive in to work, or like, or you know, like we have people that pause and will listen to our podcast in different levels, you
I
know,
love that.
or like go
I
back to it
love
multiple
that.
times, and yeah, yeah, it is awesome. It's awesome to hear, you know, how people, and yeah, this is, I mean, I know this is a feature film. This is like almost a Christopher Nolan movie at this point, but we got some Christopher Nolan arcs in here.
I love that.
So thank you so much, Rashawn. I appreciate you
Thank you.
jumping on, everything you've done. I cannot wait to see you also in New York.
Yes, it's gonna be fun.
Talk to you soon, bud.
Peace.